Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome back. My name is Jax, and today we are talking about feeling like a gay disaster. So, I've been thinking about this a while, and I think LGBT people sometimes go through a very rough patch. Being very unusual in terms of your society's normal way of being. Like, I know we like to talk about like being gay should be totally normal and like it should be like exactly the same as anyone else and you shouldn't have these weird feelings, but we do. We are unusual. We are not the standard form of human in our societies. We are a minority. That is the thing. And so I think trying to carefully beat around the bush about these things is ridiculous. I'm gay. I'm not like straight people. I have a host of different problems and different ideas and concepts that straight people have never had to think about, have never had to engage in. And every now and then, I have an existential, not crisis, but a moment of supreme worry of, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Am I totally out to lunch here? Am I so wrong? And yes, anybody can have those thoughts. Anybody can have an existential crisis. But today I wanted to explicitly talk about what it's like to be gay or queer in any way and feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not good enough. What am I doing with my life? I'm disappointing people. I'm not living up to my own expectations. I'm not living up to other people's expectations, because I feel like this is a pretty common thing. When I talk to my friends and family members who, identify as queer, are gay, lesbian, whatever they are, when I talk to them, every now and then they are going through a really hard time of basically trying to see themselves, and their self-concept of themselves is in jeopardy. They're freaking out. They're like, oh my gosh, I just don't recognize myself anymore. I'm, just feeling really pessimistic about the future. I'm really hard on myself. There's all of these different concepts where we are so self-critical. We are our own worst enemy. And once again, this is true for everybody, but I'm specifically talking about what it's like to be gay and feel like, man, I am not cut out for this. Currently, in my own experience, many people in my sphere are getting married, having families, and sort of developing into the next stage of the typical life that Western society preaches is the best. And I'm not necessarily worried or concerned about being left behind or not fulfilling a certain goal or whatever. I am far more interested in just the concept of what is it like to evolve as a queer person and to change and to enter new stages of life? Because the stages of life for the majority of people include sort of being born, having this little childhood, beginning to understand the universe, going through puberty, rite of passage, learning to drive, starting to drink, all of these different concepts, dating, beginning to go to school for your career, starting your career, meeting the love of your life, getting married, having kids, having a house, and the progression goes all the way to like having grandchildren and then, getting buried in a nice cemetery. And for queer people, right around the whole puberty and beginning to discover like, oh, I'm queer, that kind of sends that whole future progression on this like giant spiral of like, oh my gosh, this is not going to be the same. Like I'm not going to meet a partner, and we're not going to be able to have a family, and I'm not going to be able to have grandchildren, blah, 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 blah. And through that whole journey, you get to decide whether you want all of that, because in today's world, you can have that. If you want the standard American dream, Canadian dream, whatever you want to call it, you can do that. As a queer person, you can find the love of your life, have kids, do the whole shebang how you want to do it. You are empowered to do it. You have a lot less roadblocks than what people in the 90s or even in the 60s or even 10 years ago had. So you have some advantages in that way. If you don't want that, that is absolutely fine. If you want to cherish your friends, be the fun uncle, the fun aunt, the fun person to your nieces and nephews, that is great too. But I do feel like there is this like gay panic of like, oh man, I'm not good enough. I'm not living up to my expectations. I'm not living up to other people's expectations. You know, everyone else is doing this and I'm doing this. And that can be like really scary. But I want you to know, first of all, you are not alone. These ideas have existed long before you came about, and they will exist long after. And you don't have to necessarily feel this like existential dread of, man, I'm so much slower. I'm not progressing. I should be starting a family. I should be dating. I'm not successful. I should have a degree, blah, 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 blah. All of these shoulds don't actually exist. You get to really make what you want to do. And I just feel like when you go through this spiral of, oh, what am I doing? I just got cheated on. I just had to deal with this garbage. It can feel really hopeless, and it can feel really difficult to kind of wrap your head around what you're doing and feel like there's a direction or a motive or a goal in mind. But as long as you can have a good idea of where you'd like to be, I think you do have to think critically. Unfortunately, gay people tend to think about these things much more thoughtfully and much more negatively about ourselves. We have a lot of negative self-talk. You know, I think it comes from realizing that you're queer at a young age and then having to really come to terms with, who am I? What kind of person am I? Am I a morally good person? We ask ourselves these deep philosophical questions at like 14, 16, 18. And most people don't have to ask themselves these questions. Most people don't have to come to terms with their reality in that way. It's like, oh, I'm not the societal normal of this like beautiful straight guy who's super, go with the flow and just he's gonna meet a nice girl and have some kids and never have to think about it much. That is not the queer experience. The queer experience is constant self-doubt, constant worry that when people figure out who you really are, they're going to hate you or attack you or not accept you. And that makes us very thoughtful and also a little neurotic and scared of the potential of not being accepted, not being liked. And that develops into kind of a whole condition of the way it is to be queer and experience, life's difficulties and that kind of thing. I think it's hard and it's difficult. I wouldn't have it any other way, personally. I like being this thoughtful person that constantly has to think about my existence and come to terms with who I am as a person. I think I have a better sense of self than most people around me. I feel comfortable with who I am. I love who I am. And it's taken a long time to get to that point. It's taken a lot of work. But that's what I mean, is that a lot of queer people, we have to put in the work. We can't exist without putting in the work. It has been so much effort and difficulty to get to this point and to say that I'm here, I'm still breathing, and I like myself. That is a huge accomplishment. And if you can get even close to that, wherever you are in life, whether you're 55, whether you're 16, if you can get to the point where you like who you are, that's amazing. That is absolutely stunning. In a world and in a society that teaches us that we are different, we are strange, we are weird, we are not normal, if you can get to the point where you like yourself and you're like, you know what? I might not have the perfect body. I might not have the perfect boyfriend, but this is my life. I like who I am. I have done so much work and I'm still here. That's stunning. That is literally like, stunning, like just amazing. So I don't know. I just think we as queer people are so hard on ourselves. We're hard on each other, but we're so hard on ourselves, and we are our worst critics. And it is so easy to have this like gay panic of like, what am I doing with my life? Everyone else seems to like have a direction. Nobody else has a direction. Do not think for a second that anybody has life figured out. You could live 2,000 years and you would not have life figured out. You would still be learning new things, realizing that you were wrong in certain places and spaces. And honestly, like last week, I learned that I really like black olives. Hated them my whole life, love them now. So honestly, those kinds of concepts, you just gotta roll with the punches. If you can like yourself for who you are in the moment, you are winning. You are doing amazing. And these panic-filled moments, these late nights staying up going, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I've screwed up. Okay, maybe you screwed up. That doesn't define you. That's not the end of your story. You know, you're not going to let this get you down with everything that you've survived. I don't think so. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I tell myself when I have these like existential moments of dread and I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm so out to lunch here. I'm so different than everybody else. Doesn't matter. I'm on my own journey. I'm on my own path. I'm going to try and do my best, lead with compassion, even for myself, believe it or not, have a bit of compassion for what I'm doing and how I'm feeling. And at the end of the day, it's been a beautiful life. And hopefully it'll be a long and epic one. But if it's not, I'm happy. I've lived a crazy darn life and I like myself. And so at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is that you had experiences, you got to experience the insanity of this world. Like, it's just insane. Everything that goes on every single day, people wake up and they do ridiculous things and impressive things, and they develop new technology and theories, and yeah, it's unbelievable. So you are part of that whole journey. So don't beat yourself up too much. It's easy to do, but that's what I'm saying. Gay panic, not today. Maybe tomorrow. Who knows? But thank you. I hope you got something out of this little rant or ramble. I hope it was a little bit coherent, but that's basically what I've been thinking. I'm going to give myself some credit where credit is due, and that's the best that we can ever do. So there you go. But yeah, let me know what you think. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.